Let's start with ICE. We've got Marines replacing National Guard troops in front of the LA Federal Building. For what? For what purpose? These guys are out there with camo, rifles, and weapons, literally doing nothing but taking pictures of journalists and then keeping watch on the building. There are no protesters there. Why are the Marines on the streets of America? So ICE continues to rage on. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Brock Ganellis, the Uptown Point guard. Brock joins us now for the beautiful Hudson Valley. And Brock, what goes on in your neighborhood? Because I'm down here in Panama, Panama City, Panama, the country, actually visiting, and Trump is not a favorite here. Not a favorite at all.
Well, I had interesting anecdote. Just had a conversation with one of the business owners in my town, and apparently, unbeknownst to me, ICE raided the next town over yesterday. Pulled a bunch of people out of a barber shop and some people out of a restaurant in the next town over. This entrepreneur was visibly shaken, has some of her workers not coming in, doesn't want them coming to work, doesn't want them getting carted away, but also said she thought a journalist called her and kind of asked the question, well, why don't you just hire U.S. citizens? And she's like, people don't understand. I can't find a dishwasher who's American. You're like, do you know how hard it is to fill that job? She said, like, I'm not out trying to hire people who don't have proper documentation, but like, it's impossible to run the business. Like, the workers don't exist. And she literally asked me kind of like, why? How did Trump get this much power? Why is this happening? Right? Asking me, right? The white customer of this business. And I was like, you know what? I mean, because America's racist. This isn't about like, law and order. Like, there's either a misunderstanding of how the economy really works and how many, undocumented workers are doing these, in essence, menial, low end, bottom of the ladder jobs, right? But that keep the machine chugging along, keep restaurants chugging along, keep the farming industry chugging along. But this business owner was, visibly shaking. It was a tough conversation to have because I'm like kind of apologizing to her because she's a first generation American citizen, right? And I'm a third generation, right? And I have the luxury of being white also. And I'm like, I don't know. In my mind, we're a country of immigrants. In my case, it was my grandfather that came over and then the rest of the family stayed. He was the immigrant, right? In your family, you're that first generation. Now you have a son who's going to college and now he has a good job. And so now he's second generation. Why don't we acknowledge that we're a nation of immigrants? Why don't we acknowledge that we need this immigrant workforce? Why aren't we promoting immigration? Because it is the fuel to the economy that is the envy of the world. And without this labor force, it falls apart, and it's falling apart. And she was just a real world example of not only the business struggling, but just the fear that ICE is going to be knocking on her door tomorrow because now they're in the neighborhood.
What neighborhood is this? What town is this?
Well, so I'm in Hudson Valley, right? So I'm in upstate New York. I'm 2 hours north of the city. So I'm in Rhinebeck, or there's a lot of restaurants. But the raid was in the town next to ours, which is called Red Hook, which is like roughly 6 to 8 minutes away, right? It's the next town over. It's slightly bigger than Rhinebeck. But this is right on the Hudson River, straight up. An hour north of us is Albany. 2 hours south of us is New York City. So it's sort of like farm country. It's kind of the country.
Right.
It's beyond the suburbs of where we grew up. It's more country-ish.
Yeah, my question
but
is...
But the Amtrak connects us to the city.
I recall hearing about a lot of MS-13 activity up in that part of the world. They said that going for. I keep telling you, every time we have one of these raids, men, women, children, people at work, good human beings who are trying to do things honestly. I saw AOC had a couple of viral moments on the floor screaming at people about taking away protected status and then having the nerve to call people illegal. I mean, come on. They're not going after gangsters and criminals because they don't want the smoke, right? They're going after what's easy.
It's
right?
just a
The
small
easy
percentage. Yeah, it's
pickings,
a handful
hanging
of
fruit.
course. And of course, they're grabbing people at their workplaces. So that blows through the whole idea that they're out committing crimes and wreaking havoc, right? They're actually working an honest day for an honest day's pay, or probably even less, right? As we always talk about, right? Probably not even making, what an equivalent white worker would make. But yeah, they're just contributing to society. So, okay, now that barbershop has a couple empty chairs, and just what? There's more people, I guess, sitting on the side waiting for now the one barber to actually cut hair, right? And this restaurant can't even
Right.
open some days because they don't have the staffing. So they're just operating less. So a small business owner's business is tumbling down, and then that'll just pull Rhinebeck down, right? If they have to close, then that's like an empty storefront on the main street, which is only 2 blocks, right? But you don't want empty storefronts there, and then the whole
Right.
economics of even our little town starts to unravel. And yet, I live in
Right.
one of the safest communities in like the country. So like crime is like
Exactly.
the least of anyone's concern up here. It just
Exactly.
isn't. It's not even
I
in the
can't
ballpark of
recall.
being a concern. Nothing happens. The lights shut off in
Right.
this
I
town
can't
at nine
ever
o'clock.
recall.
They don't have to call a curfew. The shit, yeah. And the other thing I'm sure that riled you up is watching that Senator Padilla get strong armed by like the agents for asking a question because he was the wrong color. Even though he's a senator, he didn't look right.
Yeah. It is insane. It is absolutely insane what we're seeing now. We are literally living in a fascist country right now, but we're too busy to pay attention. People are getting up, going about their normal routines if they're able to. And let's see what happens tomorrow. Today is Friday the 13th. Let's see if Saturday the 14th is as unlucky for Trump as we would like it to be. I hope this military parade crashes and burns because all this is him trying to show up France. Remember when he was in France during Trump 1.0, the first disaster, and they had that beautiful military parade, and he thought he had to have one. Like, so he never forgot about it, which is amazing because I thought the dude's dementia had kicked in all the way. But he never forgot about it. And now, he wants to like replicate it here in the US. We don't do military parades. We don't have to do military parades in the US. All we're going to do is tear up the streets of Washington and suburban Virginia, makes us look like a bunch of freaking copycats and suckers. Like, I mean, Trump looks incredibly weak. People are going to walk by saluting you begrudgingly, and you think it's the shit, and it's not. And it's not. And America hates you. The large part of America can't stand this fucking guy and the rest of the world. I'm down here in Panama. People are like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? What is his deal? I just left the canal earlier this evening. And, the canal is making so much money. They've got it managed, obviously, pretty well. The ships are, there are so many ships out there in the Atlantic and the Pacific waiting to pass through. And from what I hear, like the low toll is 250K, right? And you can't go through the canal until your check clears. So, they're making plenty of money down here, and it's just another thing that he thinks he can do a money grab on. And he's a moron. But the rest of the world is laughing at us, saying, how do you hire this D- student, to run your country? Everybody knows he's a moron. Everybody knows it. Except for what, 51% of America that voted for this clown? You know? I mean, it's a
Yeah, just just over 50%. Yeah, I got asked tonight. How does Trump have so much power? And I really had to do a pause for like 5 seconds. Like, how do I explain it to someone like who maybe didn't
right.
grow up in America, right? I'm like, well, we gave it to him. We gave him the power. Of course, now he's abused it and extended it well beyond what the executive branch should have. Congress has rolled over and allowed that. The courts have held a little bit, but we gave it to him. And now he's just pushing the boundaries of what we as citizens are willing to accept. How much money are we allowing him to pilfer? How much bullying are we going to allow him to do around the country with abuse of the military? Are we going to allow him to pull off? And how much of a bullshit, embarrassing military parade are we going to let him revel in tomorrow. He's going to revel in it. He's going to think like, he just outdid Kim Jong Un, right? He's going to call up all his totalitarian friends. Hey, Putin, did you see my military parade? Hey,
Right.
Kim Jong Un, look at how big my military
Yeah.
parade was. That's his crew, right? That's who he's
Yeah.
trying to impress. Oh, so I'm frustrated tonight, Mark, and I am frustrated that we're not counter protesting the military parade and that the No Kings movement, which is really the strongest organizing movement, steamrolled us,
Be
right,
hit.
and decided that DC shouldn't be protesting, and the protests are everywhere else. And I'm going to go protest tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to go in the city or local. I'll get out
Right.
there to be a part of the show of force. But I'm just not convinced Trump's going to
And that's
care
it. And
because
that's
what
all the
he's going to
media is
see
going
is
to
the
show.
military parade.
Right? They don't have time to show it all. 50 plus states. We're going to have to wait till Rachel Maddow comes on Monday night at 9 p.m. to get a good idea of what happens tomorrow. Because the mainstream media has fucked us and screwed our democracy. And they could give a shit. Did you see the clip of him mumbling and stammering through some speech? I guess it was in the Oval or, in the briefing room. And it was just a hot mess. And we never saw it on mainstream media. We didn't see Taco fell.
Now they don't need
We didn't
to.
see him fall. Like, we're not seeing any of the true picture of who this clown is.
Yeah, there's been the self censorship, the lack of criticism, right? The Terry Morans get fired, the Don Lemons get fired. Anyone who kind of steps out of line, any news, CBS News bows down. They pay him fines so that he doesn't like quote, I guess shut down their companies or their networks. Speaking of shutting down networks, Congress just passed defunding NPR and PBS, so that's coming down the pipe, right? Also, like in just the stripping back of what those little quote little things that make America great, and we're just taking them away or make America different and differentiated and better educated and better socialized. We'll strip those away because NPR could be too
Right.
critical, right? They're too fair, maybe too fair-minded, so they get painted as lefties and socialists, and
It's unbelievable.
you know, they're trying to starve them to death. So between that, these ICE raids, what I'm curious about tomorrow, part of why I want to be out there is I
Protest.
want to see the demographic of the crowd. I want to see if white people are out there shoulder to shoulder with you know, Latino America. Like, is this a hand in hand? We're out here because white people are mad about the misuse of the military, right? And Latinos are mad about the actual ICE deportations and the carting people away. It's the same issue, but two like slices of the same issue. Will white America actually embrace the Latino part of the issue, which is the people who are actually getting
Right.
deported and thrown in these gulags? And I mean, can we find the common ground there? Because one of the things I wanted to ask you today is like, does that label No Kings, marches, is that doing anything for the black community? Is it like inspiring anyone
Not in my
at
network,
all?
my friend. It's no King's thing. I follow a very astute online personality at 92% woman on Instagram, and her whole thing was stay home Saturday, relax, get some cleaning done, declutter your home, take some personal time for you, everything but protest. And that's a problem because we need that multiracial, multi-ethnic coalition with a common enemy. And yet, our communities are so far divided. And the Trumpster does a wonderful job of, continuing to widen the gap for us, that we can't come together because we're not talking to each other. No one's hearing the Social Security protests on the brown side, the black side. And no one wants to talk about uniting with sensible white Americans because they don't believe such a thing exists. They think it's like the white rhino. We can't find it. Where is it? And look how long Black America has been fighting. right? That's the fallback answer. The default answer is, yo, we've been fighting for a long time and nobody wanted to help us. And so now at the absolute wrong time, we're saying, oh, we're not getting involved. And I'm telling you, I honestly believe it's just a matter of time before they start snatching up black folks in this ICE raid, or with some other form of, expanded mass incarceration, if that's even possible.
Yeah, well, I wonder if they target maybe like Haitians, or they could go after some, some specific community or subset, and and start carving off. I mean, I am just, but at least it'll be a step in the right direction if white and Latino America are out there together. First of all, the numbers will be bigger, and maybe that'll be the first step of like that, a unified response, and then you know
Yeah,
I'm confident black people are going to be out there eventually. Either something's going to happen, or you're just going to sit back and go, okay, I'm giving an E for effort. I'm seeing these white people out there. They might not be saying exactly what I like. Their message might be exactly resonating with me, but Trump's so fucking bad. At least they're out there, feet on the street. They're showing something, and at some point here, like tomorrow, I wish we were in DC, and I just want to have the all out in Trump's face. Let's lay all the cards on the table. A million people in DC. We're shutting down the entire government. Gridlock. No one can move. What are you going to do, Trump? You're going to call in the troops? Okay.
right.
Calling the troops on a
Good luck.
million people? Okay. Now you're gonna have to call in a lot of troops. Okay, now we're at war,
Right,
right? Okay, now you're declaring war on your own people. So we're not going to get that tomorrow, but maybe we'll at least get a step and some progress in the right
right,
direction. Because I don't want to have to go to the local people in the town, right? First generation legal immigrants, citizens in America, and
right,
have them ask me, why is this happening? And me have to give them the unfortunate news that
right,
America's a really racist country. And unfortunately, the racists have
right,
taken control. Racists have the wheel right now, and they're driving the car, and they're driving the policies, and they're looking to hurt people of color because they want dominance around here. And that's what I have to explain to a person of color who's now a US citizen, that beloved small business owner who's hiring all kinds of people in the community and fueling this whole affluence of my town of Rhinebeck. But our government doesn't care. Our government doesn't
right.
care. ICE agents are going to be knocking
And
on the
for
door
absolutely no
any
reason at
day
all,
now.
right? Because there's not enough MS-13 and a Tren de Agua from Venezuela to make a dent in the deportation numbers. There's just not enough. I mean, are they voting anyway? Are gang members voting? Because this is all about voter suppression, right? That's why they're going after families, right? Because these are the folks that are voting, right? All these Cubans for Trump, right? All those thousands of votes that went to Trump, especially in South Florida and places like that, where they've got, well established communities, right? And, they're voting for Trump. Those are the people you're sending home. First of all, you're an idiot because these are your people. These are your constituents. These are the people that bought into your BS and you're sending them home, but you think it's going to give you an advantage to help you pull off another election. Now, look, we know nobody does election suppression better than Republicans. They've been figuring it out. They've been way ahead of the Democrats on this issue, and it's getting old. We know what the playbook is, but yet we're standing back, writing, tersely worded letters like Chuck Schumer, and I'm hoping that they get there in time, after he puts them in snail mail. Guy doesn't even know how to fucking send an email. I mean, it is pathetic the way we're fighting. So we need young blood, Malcolm Kenyatta, David Hogg, etc., to get in here, start governing AOCs, the Jasmine Crockett's, the Eric Swalwells, Ted Lieu's. We need these people in here to help us fight back this this authoritarian regime because it is It is suppressive and it's going to get worse.
So, I mean, the Democratic Party doesn't know how to fight, so it's going to take new people. There's an entrenched power structure. Hogg is now, probably didn't see it because you were traveling. Hogg's out.
Of course.
Hogg's
Makes
out of his
sense.
position as vice chair in the party because he was too subversive, because he was pushing some, what he called do
Right.
nothing Congress people to get primaried. So, that boring Midwest guy, Ken Martin, and other powers that be, right? They went head to head on that, and Hogg, stepped aside. And whether he did it voluntarily or not, but like that's the party is lost because the party is still Chuck Schumer and let's not be weak and woke, Alyssa Slotkin, and there's absolutely
Right.
no, so few street fighters. So the leadership's going to have to come from elsewhere. That's why I'm hopeful of the rally, the protest tomorrow. Even though I know I'm going to get there and it's going to be a lot of old white people and it's going to be like,
Well, this is one
very
time you want to
docile
be wrong.
and
This is one time you want
polite.
to be wrong.
It's going to
We
be
want
a
to be,
polite march.
yeah.
What's that? I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. I have to go. I have to go to one of the, I have to go again to see. I want at least the numbers to be bigger. I want the energy to be higher, but I'm just not, I'm not confident that we're there. But the Latino community is there. I mean, I saw such a great TikTok today of a guy just like did like a 60-second dressing down of his own community, saying that you got played, and the fact that you thought that you could
Yeah.
go along with white supremacy and that it was going to benefit you. And the guy was just like, look, you are not white. You are not a part of that club. They are not welcome you in. And right, he was like, it's basically like, get your heads right. Like you got played. I mean, it was really good. I had a lot
Well,
of
look at Black
followers
MAGA,
just today. So
right? Black MAGA is the same thing.
the Latin American community,
Yeah.
I think, is
Black
having their
MAGA,
come to Jesus
same
moment because
thing.
of the LA.
Yeah. And look at Black MAGA. Black MAGA got played way to the left. Roland Martin dressed them down and talked about how quiet they are. Where's Ben Carson right about now? Where are some of these Black MAGA folks? Where's the Godfather's Pizza guy? Oh, he died during COVID, right? Black, where is,
I
oh,
hear
what's her
you.
name? I sued my school with the NAACP, and now I think black people refuse to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. What's her name? Candace Owens. Where's Candy? Candy's not
Candace
out here
Owens?
yelling and screaming. Now she wants to come back to the black folks picnic. Yeah. Yeah, trying to get on the Breakfast
No.
Club, trying to come out here and smooth things over with brown folks because she's realized that she is not a part of white supremacy and they're never going to accept you. They will use you, and they've got a bunch of
Yeah.
influencers that they love, but they're just using them. They're just using them.
Yeah. I mean, Trump will, Trump's the king of, disposable humans, right? He'll use anyone for the time being for short-term gain, right? He has no relationships. So look, we're gonna see things coming to a head. There's a white frustration with the use of the military illegally. There's a Latino frustration with their brethren getting carted away, right? There's a black aversion to being out there
Exactly.
with either of those two groups at the current time. And we all collectively decided to cede the ground
Right.
at DC to Trump and his military parade. I hope it doesn't backfire. I hope that doesn't get like a lot of play and become like a big patriotic moment for MAGA
Yeah.
where they feel like,
It's insane,
yeah,
bro.
we are running
I
shit.
mean, I don't get it.
Yeah, I think it's a show of weakness. I think it's a show of weakness, and I think that it's almost like self-bullying. But I'll try to be optimistic when I wake up tomorrow about the protests that do go on, because if enough people are out there, it'll be something. If the numbers are significantly bigger than the one in April, that at least will tell us something, that more people are motivated. Complacent white Americans are at least motivated to get off their ass and be a part of
Right. And that's what
showing
We're
themselves
going to need white people to use their privilege,
something.
exert that privilege, and put their foot down on the Trumpster. Because, like you said, white supremacy can only be beat down with white folk. And so
Hey, look, I hope there's some authorities. I hope there's some unrest tomorrow. I know everyone's supposed to
Yeah.
give the speech about no violence, and every politician, everyone has
Stir
to,
shit up.
do it the right way, do it the right way, do it the right way. I actually hope there's some shit goes down in some places, right? I don't want to see anyone get killed, but I want some shit to go down. I want it to be testy. I want it to be aggressive. I want it to be enough that Trump notices that it's going on out there. And he feels like he has to try to crack down on every city. Okay, now we're
Yeah.
gonna have troops in every city. Then we're a police state. Okay, and is white America accept a police state? So I think white America needs to see troops in their neighborhoods, in their faces,
Absolutely.
for it to
All
really
right, buddy.
rile
That's
them.
going to be the
We'll see.
last word for today. We'll check in tomorrow and let's see what happens.
You got a quick hit for me today? But Mark,
Give it
I
to
got one quick hit for you. I don't know if you've seen it. Go watch the clip. Watch the clip of the Tesla robo taxi that they're supposed to roll out in Austin. The self-driving cars that are supposed to roll out any day now. So they were doing some test runs around some neighborhoods, and there's great footage of the car just running. They had a child test dummy crossing the street, and the car just runs right over the kid. I'm like, there is no fucking way, Elon Musk. And I'm like, Elon Musk fired the oversight, so there's no one telling him he can't roll these cars out. He's never shown anyone any safety data, but there's no one in those organizations
Right.
anymore, right? Because we dojied them all away. And Austin, Texas is just going to roll out Musk's cars, trusting his
No
software with
fucking
their
way.
kids going to elementary school.
God, I got to check that out. All right, bro. We'll check in tomorrow. Yeah, we'll get a rundown on what
Stuff like
happens
that. All
tomorrow,
right, good.
play by play. All right, buddy. Be safe when you get out there tomorrow.
I'll take some footage. I'm curious to see the demographic of the crowd as last time.
Absolutely.
So I'll touch
Absolutely.
base with you. Maybe
And I
we'll do
will
something
not.
late tomorrow. I'm out all day, but we'll get together. Okay.